Hi, I'm just going to take you through my process for generating elevation views from a point cloud scan. So we're going to deal with the scan using Autodesk Recap Pro and then compose the scan onto a layout using AutoCAD. Okay, these are the files I'm working on at Perth in Scotland. Scanned this yesterday. This is the main scan file which calls on the information in the support folder. But what I've done is copied the scan to another file name and copied the support folder as well, just so I don't disturb these, kind of leave them in peace. Okay, so we'll be opening makeelevations.rcp. Okay, here's an RCS file. This is the whole scan, all unified into one file. So it's 6 gig RCS file. So it's pretty big area, as you'll see in a second. Okay, so this is us in the makeelevations.rcp file, and in this you can see the scan locations. These are the spheres here representing all the scan locations, and as an example, what I'm going to do is capture just the west facing parts of the kirk, of the large church building. Okay, and that way the students can learn how to do this themselves, and they can extract whichever buildings they need, because there's lots of different elevations that could be grabbed from this particular scan. Usually I would help with this, but there's just a bit too many here. I'll let them practice themselves. Okay, so viewing in the perspective view is not going to be very helpful. So we go to display settings and switch off the perspective. Okay, then view this from the top. So I'll come over to the cube, click on the top button, and then I want to try and zoom in on the kirk, on the church. It's just a Scottish word for church. Okay, and try and rotate this a little bit so it's a bit more facing me, kind of parallel. Okay, and then we want to select some parts of the scan. So you've got two options. You can either use a rectangular window or a more random shape, which is a fence. But for this job, I'm going to use the rectangular window. So you just click and drag over the bits you want. So you take as little as you can get away with. So I need the frontage here. I need this kind of doorway at the side, but also the ridge of the roof, because I need to know how high the roof is there. Okay, I'm not sure if this is visible, but I'll take it anyway. There's another part of a wall there, and then the main chunk through the spire of the church and the two north and south kind of transepts. So that should give me, oops, I should have held control there, silly me. So you hold control so you hold shift, you don't hold control, hold shift to get the plus sign next to your cursor. Okay, and you can add those bits in. If you do pick too much, you can hold the Alt key and a minus symbol appears next to your cursor. Holding shift is plus. Okay, there isn't anything higher than this area beyond the spire, so I don't really need to capture anything at this end of the building. It wouldn't be visible if I was stood at this side. Okay, so what we basically do is get rid of everything else, export the unified bit here as a separate file, as an RCS file, but then undo so all this comes back. Otherwise you end up copying the file lots of times, and it's just a bit unnecessary. You can, if you're very careful with the undo, you can do it all within the same file quite methodically. Okay, so I'm using this button here, clip outside. Okay, so everything's gone. As long as I don't close the file, I'm not going to lose any points. Okay, so now we go to the home button here, and we're looking for export. Okay, and I'm going to give this, be sensible with your names. So this is Kirk West facing. Okay, but what I want is an RCS file. I don't want an RCP file because that retains all the information for the scan positions. What I need is the RCS. Just make sure I get that. Okay, then save. And we want to unify these because some of the dots are from maybe this scan, some of the dots here are from this scan. There's probably about 6 scans that have got dots that are in that particular area, and likewise all through the model, all through the scan. So unify the project. So this will take a few seconds. So what I'm going to do is just pause the video here. Okay, it's progressing. And it's getting near the end now. It's doing fairly big jumps now. It probably do the last bit in one fairly quick jump, he said optimistically. Yep, he tends to do that. It tends to have a slow start and then a reasonably fast bit near the end. Okay, obviously this export will take a fair bit longer if you've got a big street elevation to output. It really, the export depends on how many dots you are sending out. So we're at 93% now. Not far to go. That's it, done. Okay, so this is where you must do the Control Z. If you undo, okay, you can then move on to the next part. So if I was wanting to do the south facing parts of the building, okay, we've got changes of height all the way along here, so it'd probably take that, and that would be the south facing. So you do the same thing again, go to the home ribbon, export, and give it a name and sit and wait. Okay, so you just keep doing that all the way through, and I haven't actually made any changes to the scan at all. So if I do decide to close, recap, I can close without saving. So that's what I'm going to do, just to save my machine some strain. So I'm going to close and don't save. Okay, so the next step is AutoCAD. Okay, so I'll start a empty drawing. Okay, now I'm in the 3D modeling workspace. Okay, because you want to get to the coordinate systems. Okay, so it's 3D modeling for your workspace. Okay, and then you don't need to worry too much about layers or anything because the output is in the colors of the scan. There's nothing you can really control anyway. So it's insert, attach. Okay, now if you don't see RCS files, you need to change the file type to RCS. Okay, so that you can pick up the Autodesk scan. Okay, it won't preview it. It's too big, too much information for it to bother generating a preview. So you open that. Okay, and I usually just let them drop in where they need to be. We don't want to change the scale. We don't want it to be in real life size. So for us, it's in millimeters. And insertion point, just let it land wherever it wants to. And this is quite handy if it's not switched on. Zoom to point cloud, just so it brings it straight into view. Okay, we are seeing a preview now. We can see it's the model we need. Okay, so if I just have a quick look at that from the side, you can see we've got the scan, but what we're trying to do is get it lined up like this. Okay, so that we can then use that as a base for creating elevations or 3D models. Okay, so I'll just go back to the plan view. Right, so the first job is to get it in line either in this direction or in this direction. Now here I've got a reasonably strong line that I can read. This is the ridge along here, maybe a bit bent at points there, so you have to make a judgment. I think I'll probably use this line as my kind of baseline. So I'm just going to draw a regular line on top of this. Okay, so I just need a line. Okay, so you're just doing this by eye. Okay, so I'm just trying to get that line as best fit as possible on the ridge dots that I can see there. They're reasonably sharp. Okay, enter to finish. You know, this is an old building. These guys didn't have, you know, the accuracy that we have, so you know, you can expect a bit of strange stuff going on, or it might be the scan inaccuracy. It could be problems with the scan, but you've got to just make a judgment and just go with it. So what we need now is for the scan and this line brought around so that the white line's horizontal. Okay, so use the rotate command for that. So it's rotate, pick both of the items, then press enter. Okay, the base point, I'm going to pick this end of the white line. Okay, and then it says what angle do you want? I don't know the angle, so you use a reference rotation. So you click the reference word. The rotation angle is from, you measure the angle on the incorrect object. So it's you take your base point effectively, and then the other end of that line, so you're setting up the incorrect angle. Okay, so we're now in control of everything using that white line. Okay, there's a bit of lag. My machine's not the most powerful of laptops. If I put ortho on, then it's going to pull that horizontal. Okay, a single click over at this right hand end, and that's us pulled the scan and the white line so that we're at least kind of orthogonal now. Okay, hang on to the line just for a second because it does help you orientate yourself a little bit. What we now need to do is rotate it in this side axis. So imagine the white line was the axis for the rotation. That's what we want to spin around next. Okay, so if we go into 3D view, so I hold shift and middle mouse button, and we effectively need to be rotating in this direction. Imagine that's a kind of a drive shaft and it's kind of turning in this way. Okay, so if we use the right coordinate system, we can rotate in that plane. Okay, so it's the right coordinate system. Okay, so now Y is going up this way and X is going that way, so that Z is in the same direction as the white line. And you always rotate around the Z effectively. So it's rotate again. We'll grab everything. There's only two objects. Press enter. Okay, the base point for the rotation, we can use the end of the line. It's nice and handy. We don't lose ourselves in 3D space then. And the angle will always be -90. Okay, so -90, enter. Go back to the world coordinate system. Okay, then type plan and enter twice. And there we have it. Effectively got the elevation of the church. Okay, not quite finished yet. Okay, we don't need the line now. Okay, and let's just move it so it's a bit more in the kind of work zone. So just use the move command, enter. Base point can be anywhere. I'll turn ortho off, I don't need it on just for a second. I'll just bring the scan to here, and then what I usually do, which helps because it gives you two options for tracing. Sometimes things aren't quite easily legible on the RGB colour for the scans. Now this was quite a gloomy day, so it's difficult to pick out details sometimes. Yeah, I've got a bit of scan inaccuracy here and there. Nothing too bad actually. Given the size of the area, I didn't do too bad. But what we'll do is copy that. So we'll copy the scan, put ortho on this time to keep them side to side, and copy it by a certain distance. Copy it by a nice round number. So that's looking just about 40,000. So that means that you can copy lines from side to side by 40,000 if you remember the number. So 40,000. Enter to stop. Might be wise to draw a line that's 40,000 so you know how much you've got to copy things from side to side by. So just draw a line, same distance, 40,000, and that way if you draw something on this side you can copy it over to the main drawing and add it in and it'll be in the right place. Okay, but what I'll do with this second scan is change the color mapping. So instead of the scan colors, instead of RGB, I set this to intensity, and that can reveal more detail that's a bit difficult to pick out on the color one. Okay, so that's okay. You could get stuck in there and start drawing if you wanted to, or what we tend to do is to generate a PDF and then trace the PDF. So that effectively flattens everything. It makes it a bit easier to work with. So if I go to a layout, okay, I'm going to set this up. I'm going to set this up as a DWG to PDF. Okay, try and avoid the Adobe one. It's not so reliable as DWG to PDF. Paper size, you want this quite big, so I'm going to go for an A1. Okay, just so you kind of keep the detail up. So use big pieces of paper for this purpose. Generate big PDFs. So don't need to bother about a CTB or an STB. The colors are built in to the image anyway. And OK, and close. OK, make the viewport. Fill the paper. Okay, same down here. Give ourselves a bit more. Okay. Zoom all, Z return, A return to fit your page in your view. Double click inside. We can get rid of the grid. That's distracting. Okay, just bring this in. You can use a zoom extents if you double click your middle mouse button. Okay, and I can see here from the kind of scale factor in the bottom corner there, it's slightly bigger than 0.01, so that means a 1 to 100 would fit nicely. Okay, so I generally type my scales in, so it's Z, enter 1/100 XP. Okay, slight shrink there. This is bang on 1 to 100 now. You know, obviously you could use the different scales here if you want. And double click outside, and that's ready for making the PDF. So this can sometimes, generating the PDF can sometimes take a bit of time. One thing with the scans is the size of the dots. Okay, now we should be okay with this one. When generally, say scales 1 to 100, 1 to 200, 1 to 500, the dots become closer together. Okay, but if you were trying to extract, say, a 1 to 20 detail, say of like one part of this tower or something, then you need to increase the dot size. And just to show you that, before we leave, okay, if I click on the scan, you've got a point size that you can increase and decrease. Okay, so for say 1 to 20, you might want to increase the point size to maybe 5, so you get bigger dots and less white space between them. Okay, let's just generate the PDF so you can see the finished thing. I'll probably pause the video while it's doing that. So plot, everything's ready to go. I'm not going to do a preview because it takes time to generate the preview. I'm just going to go straight to OK, and I want to save this in with the rest of the scan. So let's put it in the laser scanning area, if I can find it. There we go. Perth City Hall, and this is west facing Kirk, west facing PDF, and save. Okay, so I'll just pause the video at this point. Well, my machine must be happy today, it did that quite quickly, and that's us got our PDF that we can then work on. As you can see different levels of detail. I can make out the stones a bit clearer on that side. Same with the fretwork in the windows. Okay, and you can see the different, where the scans are kind of being occluded. You can see the little kind of triangles there. And that's the process. And then that can be taken in and used as a kind of a straight trace, or extract data from that. Okay, so I hope that's been useful. I tend to find that a reasonably quick way of getting to the elevations without generating too many extra files and copies of the support files. Okay, thank you.